So, today in art, you're going to be doing some painting, and we're going to be painting something that looks a little bit like this. This is a picture that uses chromatic scales. Now, the word chromatic comes from the ancient Greeks, and we're using it today to understand how colour works. So you'll notice that on this picture, we have blue moving all the way through to yellow. And the colours change as we move through from the blue to the yellow. Here we have blue moving all the way through to red, and again those colours change. Now you probably know something about red and blue and yellow that you might want to share. And you might know the terms primary, secondary, and some of you might even have heard of tertiary. Have a quick chat and see if you can remember what all those terms mean. So for this task, you're going to need to choose two primary colours, and you're going to be painting all the shades that fall between one and the other. So if we go back to our picture, and I've chosen yellow and blue here, you can see that we'll begin with yellow, move to yellow-green, then green, then blue-green, and finally down to blue. As you paint, you're going to need to use the colours really carefully, step by step, mixing just a tiny bit of the darker colour into the lighter colour every time to achieve all of these shades. Now, you should be aware that with this poster paint, you don't really need to be adding any water to it. You need to have a slightly damp brush, but that's all. And you have a paper towel next to you, I'm going to use a bit of kitchen roll, where you can dab off any excess water when you wash your brush, because there will be points where you need to wash your brush. And a couple of things about brushes. I'm using a round tipped brush, but this would work equally well with a flat tipped one. Be absolutely fine, so you may have either in the classroom today. When you paint, the paint needs to be on the fibres of the brush, not on this silver part here. If you get it onto the silver part, you're overloading your brush and it becomes much harder to control your painting. Secondly, when we wash our brush, we never ever leave the brush fibres down in the water against the base of your water pot. If you do so, they will curl and then you won't be able to get nice, neat lines when you come to paint. It ruins the fibres. The other thing is when we clean our brushes, we never stick the brush into the bottom of the pot and scrub hard. If you do that again, you'll damage the brush fibres, and what you'll end up with is something that looks like an old toothbrush. You know how the toothbrush all splays open, and that's not very good either. We can't paint with that. So when you wash your brush, please try and swirl it in the middle of the pot in the water and don't scrub it on the bottom. The last thing that you need to know is the wooden bit here is not meant to sit in water. If it does and it gets all wet, it will crack. So we have to keep it out of the water, and when the brushes are drying, we've just put them down flat in between use on your paper towel. Right, let's get started. So I'm going to begin with pure yellow, just with the colour as it is, and I want to put lots on the sheet so that it's really nice and vibrant. I'll be blending this in. Now you'll notice that you have a sheet that has masking tape, and that is creating a border for you. So you want to paint up to the edge, but don't try and push it underneath, otherwise you'll ruin the effect of the border. Now, when I've got a nice layer of that down, which I have, I'm then going to add the tiniest bit of blue to one part of it just here. And I'm just looking to make that yellow a little bit darker. And as I mix it in, I'm being very careful to make sure that I'm not getting any paint on the metal part of my brush. And I'm going to add that. You can see it's just very slightly darker. Now, as you mix it, you will need to mix enough to cover the bit that you're painting quite nicely to add a little bit more blue in. And we're going to keep doing this until we go all the way from yellow at one end to blue at the other. You can see that it's just beginning to now move into yellow green, and I'm making sure that I've got plenty on my sheet. So I've got a nice rich colour, but I'm not letting it blob. Anyway, we don't want any blobs. Try and move your brush in a straight line across. When you get to the end, lift it up, bring it back to this side. You'll find that you get a much better effect if you do that. Right, I'm just going to keep mixing until we get all the way to the end, because that's exactly what you will need to do. And there you have it, a chromatic scale from yellow through to green, with the yellow green in the middle, then green blue, or blue green, and then blue at the other end.